If you're talking about the blueprint for building a music empire, this right here is it. In the early 1960s, as Motown was still establishing itself in Detroit, Berry Gordy had a bold vision. Take the Motown sound on the road and bring it straight to the people. And so the Motortown Revue was born. A traveling showcase of the label's rising stars and hitmakers, packed into buses riding from city to city, town to town, hitting theaters, clubs, and concert halls all across the country. But this was no glamorous tour. It was grueling. Artists like Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, the Supremes, the Temptations, Marvin Gaye, and Mary Wells were pulling double and triple shows a day, sleeping on buses, facing racist laws and hostile crowds, and still stepping on stage with class, energy, and soul every night. They were entertainers, yes, but also trailblazers, pushing through segregation, changing hearts and minds one performance at a time. The Motortown Revue introduced Motown's music to America. It forced the country to pay attention. It turned unknown acts into household names, laid the foundation for Motown's national and international dominance, and broke barriers for black performers in the mainstream music industry. So today we're rewinding the tape to explore how this epic tour helped shape Motown's legacy and change music history forever. Hey yo, what's going on, guys? This is Kanoa Speaks. We're diving into the archives to bring you the moments from history that shaped the R&B and soul genres. Let's get it. Before Motown was a household name, before the world knew the Supremes, Marvin Gaye, or Stevie Wonder, there was a dream brewing in Detroit. In the heart of Motor City, a former assembly line worker turned songwriter, Berry Gordy, had a revolutionary idea, not just to create hits, but to build an entire empire. A hit-making machine that could rival the likes of major pop labels while showcasing black talent with elegance, precision, and crossover appeal. By the early 1960s, Motown Records was already gaining traction with regional hits, but Gordy knew radio spins alone wouldn't be enough. If Motown was going to become the sound of young America, it had to move beyond the confines of Detroit and hit the road. Enter the Motortown Revue. The concept was simple. Gordy envisioned a traveling show that would feature a rotating lineup of Motown's rising stars performing together across the country. A mobile stage where talent met opportunity night after night. But why take such a massive risk? The U.S. in the early 60s was still deeply segregated. Many venues in the South refused to host integrated shows. Hotels and restaurants wouldn't serve black performers. Violence and hostility were the real threats. And yet, Gordy pressed forward. The Revue was about music, yes, but it was also about representation, exposure, and breaking down racial barriers through undeniable talent. The first Motortown Revue tour launched in 1962 with a stacked roster. Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, Mary Wells, the Marvelettes, and a young Marvin Gaye, just to name a few. They piled into buses, packed with instruments, dreams, and determination, and they hit the road. And that's where the real story begins. When the Motortown Revue hit the road, it wasn't all bright lights and applause. Behind every polished performance was a journey filled with sweat, sacrifice, and survival. These young artists, many of them still teenagers, found themselves performing in cities they'd never seen, in venues they'd never imagined, often in front of audiences who had never heard of them. Each day meant a new town, a new stage, and often several shows back-to-back with little rest in between. The schedule was relentless. A typical day might include up to 4 to 5 performances, followed by long bus rides through the night to the next stop. There was little room for comfort. Cramped buses doubled as dressing rooms, break rooms, and makeshift beds. It was exhausting, but they did it for the music. Despite the grind, those buses became more than just transportation. They became family. Veterans like Smokey Robinson would look out for newcomers. Diana Ross, known even then for her ambition, would rehearse her routines down to the tiniest gesture. Young Stevie Wonder, just a kid, would entertain his fellow passengers between gigs with harmonica solos and jokes. But it wasn't all bonding moments and sing-alongs. Touring in the segregated South became a dark reality. Black artists were often denied hotel accommodations, forced to sleep on buses, or rely on safe houses in the black neighborhoods. Restaurants would turn them away, and they had to rely on boxed lunches and roadside pit stops. The Green Book, a travel guide listing safe spaces for black travelers, became essential. And then there was the venues. While some crowds welcomed Motown with open arms, others were hostile. There were places where Motown artists had to enter through the back door or perform behind ropes to segregate black and white audiences. And yet, night after night, they performed with style, grace, and soul, proving that talent really had no color. Every night on that stage was a chance to make an impact, to prove that Motown belonged, not just in black America, but across the entire country. And while the Revue demanded everything from its artists, physically and emotionally, it also shaped them. It taught them how to perform under pressure, how to connect with audiences, and how to rise above hate with harmony. The road wasn't easy, but it was where legends were born. Through exhaustion and adversity, the Motortown Revue didn't just tour the nation, it changed it, one show at a time. As the Motortown Revue rode from city to city, something magical was happening. Stars were being born right in front of the crowd's eyes. This tour, for all intents and purposes, was a boot camp for greatness. Each performance was a proving ground. And those who rose to the occasion didn't just become good, they became unforgettable. Mary Wells, for example, Motown's first true female star. Night after night, she poured her heart out on stage, delivering songs like Bye Bye Baby and You Beat Me to the Punch with raw emotion that made fans feel every note. She wasn't just performing, she was connecting with her people. Her time on the Revue turned her into a household name and paved the way for women of Motown who followed. And speaking of women, the Supremes weren't always headliners. Early on, they were dubbed the no-hit Supremes because their singles struggled to chart. But the Revue gave them the stage they needed to grow. Diana Ross honed her star power. Florence Ballard brought depth with their rich vocals, and Mary Wilson added warmth and charm. It was through repetition, practice, and watching acts like the Miracles and the Marvelettes up close that the Supremes transformed into superstars. And we can't forget somebody like Marvin Gaye. Young, smooth, and searching for his identity. The Revue gave him time to experiment, to try different styles, and to try to figure out who Marvin Gaye was going to be. It was where he learned how to control a crowd, how to adapt on the fly, and how to let his voice tell a story. That development would later lead to the masterpiece eras we now associate with his name. And then there were the Temptations, a force of precision and charisma. The Revue taught them how to move like one, sing like one, and shine as individuals within a group. Their harmonies, choreography, and suit and tie elegance set a new standard for male vocal groups and soul music. But here's what's key. None of this success happened overnight. It was forged under pressure, in back-to-back performances, rough bus rides, and the tough love of audiences who demanded the best. If you couldn't bring it live, you didn't last. For many Motown legends, greatness didn't start in the studio, it started on a stage. The Motortown Revue wasn't just a tour, it was the spotlight that revealed the future of music. By the early 1960s, America was still deeply divided. Segregation laws in the South and discriminatory practices across the country made it dangerous for black artists to travel freely, let alone perform in front of integrated crowds. But the Motortown Revue wasn't built to play it safe. It was built to shift the culture. Berry Gordy and his artists knew that music had power, the power to cut through ignorance and bring people together and force change. So with every stop on the Revue tour, Motown wasn't just entertaining. It was challenging the status quo. In cities where black and white audiences were expected to sit separately, Motown artists demanded integration. At first, venues tried to resist. They roped off sections. They threatened to cancel shows, but the Revue's popularity made it hard to ignore. Crowds poured in, black, white, young, old. It didn't matter who you were. They weren't showing up to be divided. They were coming to feel the music together. In places like the South where dividing lines were etched into the sidewalks and doorways, Motown's concerts became neutral zones. Even if just for one night, those venues became spaces where segregation took a back seat to soul. But it wasn't without risk. The artists faced harassment, threats, and worse. There were nights where they were turned away from hotels and forced to sleep on the bus. Nights when the police monitored their every move. But the Revue kept going because they knew every show was more than a performance. It was a statement. As Motown artists gained popularity, the industry really did take notice. The success of the Revue proved that black performers could pack houses and sell records on a national scale, not just in black communities, but across racial lines. This opened the door for future generations of artists and helped dismantle the myth that music had to be divided by race. The Motortown Revue wasn't marching in the streets like the civil rights leaders of the time, but it was marching in its own way. One show, one city, one breakthrough at a time. Motown didn't just change the sound of America, it helped change the face of it. And the Revue was on the front lines of that transformation. The buses eventually parked. The stages were torn down, but the legacy of the Motortown Revue never stopped moving. What began as a bold gamble, a cross-country tour featuring young, unproven black artists, evolved into one of the most influential musical movements of the 20th century. And its impact didn't end when the tour did. It echoed into everything that came after. The Revue taught Motown's artists how to captivate an audience night after night, city after city. That training, the endless rehearsals, the tight choreography, the precision vocals became the Motown standard. It's what made the label's artists not just musicians, but entertainers. And it set a blueprint that the industry still follows to this day. Coordinated stage shows, tour branding, artist development, polished public images. That's Motown's legacy, born straight out of the Revue. The tour also expanded Motown's reach in ways no marketing plan could. People didn't just hear the music, they experienced it. They saw Marvin Gaye charm a room, Stevie Wonder tear it down at age 12, and the Supremes grow from hopefuls into icons. That kind of impact can't be manufactured. It's earned. And it built the bond between artists and fans that would last generations. The artists who once rode those buses became global superstars. They influenced not just soul and R&B, but pop, rock, funk, and hip-hop. The legacy lives on in every act that puts craft, energy, and audience connection first. And beyond the music, the Revue left a cultural imprint. It helped dismantle racial boundaries in the entertainment world, showing that black artists could headline anywhere, pack houses, and lead movements anywhere. And it gave the world a new image of black excellence, one that was sharp, professional, proud, and unapologetically powerful.